Hey folks, welcome back to Canada's Boxing Channel. Tomorrow, of course, it is the Chris Eubank Jr. Connor Benn fight. There's a few fights on the undercard that I thought I would just touch on. This isn't a full prediction preview video. This is really just to give my thinking about them. Essentially, if you like, what not to bet on. Don't bet on whatever I bet on, kind of thing. Anyways, we've got Liam Smith, BEEFY, who's, I guess this is a comeback fight. To be perfectly honest, I had thought that Liam Smith was going to call it a day. He wasn't active at all last year. Of course, in 2023, he had a couple of fights. He lost to Eubank Jr., and prior to that, he'd beaten Eubank Jr. A bit of an irony in a way, I suppose. You know, he's beaten Chris Eubank Jr. and now he's on Chris Eubank Jr.'s undercard, no doubt making nowhere near as much money as Chris Eubank Jr. is making. That's just the way that boxing goes, isn't it? You think of Joe Joyce having beaten Daniel Dubois and where they are today, kind of thing, in their respective careers. Anyways, Liam Smith is 34-4-1. He's got losses on his record to Jaime Munguia and, of course, to Canelo. No shame in losing. And like I say, I thought he'd called it a day. But he is making a comeback of sorts, or it's, I can't think of another word for it, against a young Irishman who boxes out of the United States. Aaron McKenna, who's 19-0, number 1 in Ireland, number 13 in the world. Only 25 years of age, the more active fighter. 2 fights in 2024 and 2 fights in 2023. I would expect that Liam Smith is going to prevail here. If he doesn't, then I would seriously expect him to say, well, that's it. You know, it's a wrap for me. He's obviously selected young McKenna for the purposes of getting his career back up and back on track. Hard to say, really. I don't know much about McKenna. 19-0, but the record, of course, doesn't tell you everything. He is young, he is hungry, so that could be an interesting fight to watch. Like I say, Smith would be favored. Certainly has the experience that young McKenna doesn't. And now we've got a fight that I don't think anybody really wanted to see, to be perfectly honest. Lyndon Arthur and Anthony Yarde. I like Lyndon Arthur, but I don't think he's going to prevail this time. These guys they've gone 1-1 before. So this is the trilogy. I suppose it's the trilogy nobody was asking for, but in a way, I suppose it's nice to figure out which one of these two is the best. Put a full stop to that sentence. Lyndon Arthur is, excuse me, I must be allergic to these plants. He's 24-2-0, number 25 worldwide, number 7 in the UK. It's, of course, light heavyweight. He's 33 years old, 6'2". Dear me. He beaten Liam Cameron. He lost to Bivol, of course, in December of 23. No shame in losing to Bivol. Anthony Yarde, number 10 worldwide, number 4 in the UK, 33 years of age, 6 foot, a couple of inches shorter than Lyndon Arthur. He's won his last 3, having lost to Beterbiev. Again, no shame, in January of 23. I would anticipate Anthony Yarde to finally put this sort of competition to bed, as it were, between him and Lyndon Arthur. I would expect Anthony Yarde to see off Lyndon Arthur. Though I will say that Anthony Yarde is capable of putting in fabulous performances, followed by complete crap. So, whichever Anthony Yarde turns up. If the good Anthony Yarde turns up, I think he'll be too much for Lyndon Arthur. But if the if the poor Anthony Yarde turns up, Lyndon Arthur might prevail over him. He's beaten him before, but I would expect Anthony Yarde to win out this one. And then we've got what I think might be the most interesting on the undercard. The cruiserweight. Chris Billam Smith, 20 wins, 2 losses, number 3 worldwide, number 1 in the UK, 34 years of age, 6'3", against, let me see what this chap's name is, Brandon Glanton, a fellow I must say I'm not familiar with. 27 worldwide, number 2 in the USA, good record, 20 wins, 2 losses, 33 years of age, 5'11", little short for a cruiserweight. Chris Billam Smith, I would imagine, would be favoured to win. He lost recently against Ramirez, took quite a bit of damage there. Beat Riakporhe, beat Masternak, beat Okoli. There's something about this American chap, though. He most recently had a run out in Russia against a Russian fighter, and he won. And prior to that, he had a run out in France against a French fighter, and he won. He's a real bit of a road man. I think a lot depends really on how much damage has Chris Billam Smith taken. You know, every time you go and you have a real battle, it takes something out of you as a fighter. I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Glanton prevails here. This is, I know, heresy. Chris Billam Smith is favoured, expected to win. But I wouldn't be surprised. It'll be an interesting fight. I really would like to see what the effects of recent fights have had on Chris Billam Smith. Very likeable fellow, one of my favourite fighters actually. But every time you go to the well, you draw water out, there's less water left in, right? So I'm hoping that Chris Billam Smith prevails, but it wouldn't surprise me if Brandon Glanton manages to pull off a wee bit of an upset here. So that's my take. I would expect Yarde to prevail over Arthur. I would expect Liam Smith to win against McKenna. I'm hopeful that Chris Billam Smith will win his fight, but I wouldn't be surprised. Something in my tummy tells me that might be the one to watch. So yeah, for me, if I was able to watch this card, of course, as I mentioned on the previous video, I'll be flying, so I'll be catching it up. You know, when I get home late, I'll be behind the curve. I think the undercard is actually a good undercard. I like the undercard more than the main event. And clearly, as you know, I think the main event is a bit gimmicky. But I like the undercard. Remember to tune in on Sunday, because I'll have young James from Porky's Corner on the channel, and James and I will no doubt be talking about all these fights. It'll be good to catch up with James. I've not spoken to him for a couple of weeks. So please like, please share, please subscribe. Thank you so much for your support. It's much appreciated. And wherever you are in the world, have a fabulous day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.